I've really had no problem over the years just tracking these cycles. And if you all have been watching my channel, I started my channel basically back here at the top of a bull market. So I track this entire bear market, the bear market bottoming out, the last bull market, the most previous bear market. I've had no trouble. I have a macro kind of outlook on this space, crypto, and I'm incredibly excited about the upside. Recently, what has happened is we have this little on the altcoin chart. This is actually the total crypto market cap chart, but this fake out right here, altcoin season getting ready to start again. If you remember, we got a little faked out. And right now, what's happening is a little bit of a divergence from previous cycles. And I think this is discouraging a lot of people. And for me, I have to sit back as an analyst and say, you know what? What exactly is happening right now? And what is the data driving this? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I remain incredibly bullish, and it's actually getting close to the short-term bullish at this moment. I want to talk about this, and I want to visualize it in a little bit of a different perspective, the Fed ending quantitative tightening. If you're a crypto holder, if you're interested in the space, this data is absolutely everything in terms of what happens next for crypto and the altcoin bull market. Hit the subscribe. Hit the like on the way in. Let's talk about it. Last time they did this, the end of quantitative tightening, Bitcoin dominance collapsed. If history repeats, alt season is coming. So on the Bitcoin dominance chart, what I plotted here is the Fed net liquidity indicator here that you see like in bright green. This is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for this move. This is a Bitcoin dominance chart, right? This net liquidity rising. Why is that going to happen? Or how could it actually start happening now? Even if quantitative easing isn't in play right now. Well, if we go to the Fed balance sheet, here's what's going on. We've had just years of reduction of the Fed balance sheet, really just sucking all the liquidity from these markets. And that's what these markets need. Altcoin bull market needs that liquidity. Now we're told that this reduction will start slowing down. It's not stopping in April, but it's going to start slowing down and eventually pivoting. And what happens when it pivots? Well, we see on this chart the expansion phase. And this is what is getting very close, everybody. And so if you're just completely doubtful of crypto and this space, I think if you could focus on one data point, it would be this one. Because historically, and we can start in the Bitcoin dominance chart. Historically, when this starts expanding to the upside, right? The Fed net liquidity indicator that you see here in green. This is when we start seeing Bitcoin dominance fall. We start seeing just bull market environment for all of crypto, but namely altcoin bull market, right? And if you just look at this net liquidity indicator, I don't know exactly the next move on the very short term, right? But we can kind of try and change this to maybe a daily chart, right? And you can kind of get a sense of what it's doing. But what we're waiting for is the continued kind of uptrend of this. And so we have quantitative tightening slowing down in April. And with that, there is a very strong case that this can actually start slowly ticking higher, If that's the case, historically, if we start ticking higher, we might start seeing Bitcoin dominance start falling. We get a little bit of a different snapshot. We start going to different charts. Here's a total market cap of all of crypto chart, and you can just see it is absolutely this. If you look at the Fed net liquidity, it's just been sideways. What happens? Quantitative tightening stops or slows down, then stops, comes to an end, and then we actually get quantitative easing. What happens here? And what do you think crypto markets will be doing? Especially as we're kind of in this high fear environment right now. Altcoins especially, people are just like, I guess it's over for altcoins. I'm just saying, I do not think it's over at all. I'm looking at what is happening from the institutional standpoint. We've been looking at ETF data. We've been looking at just what the government is doing. I'm not talking about any of that right now. But you sprinkle that stuff into what we're looking at right now with this data and the liquidity coming into this market. Well, we saw what happened last cycle, right? And this is a total crypto market cap. If we actually just go look at altcoins, this is excluding Bitcoin, we see what happened last cycle. So now we're really digging into the altcoin aspect of this. And I'm going to use Ethereum as a really good example here in terms of what I think any altcoin holder should be anticipating, at the very least anticipating. Here it is. Look at the liquidity. Just obviously this was COVID last cycle, and then that continued. And then what did altcoins do? This is excluding Bitcoin. There's the bull market. We're waiting for that move now. Will we get that breakout out of this just bear market, dried up liquidity phase? We get this breakout. What do you think is going to happen on this chart? So no longer is it just looking at charts, right? The charts in general, I think, look just beautiful. If we remove this Fed liquidity indicator, the charts just look like really good in my view in terms of the growth of crypto, higher highs, higher lows, even the consolidation of these moving averages. This is a monthly chart. We're having this oversold high fear environment right now in crypto, but it's really the fact that it's getting ready to, this environment is getting ready to collide with the Fed pivot and the end of, or the slowing down and end of quantitative tightening. So now we go look at Ethereum. And this really, I think, does a good job of kind of showing where we are and really the opportunity at hand. I don't mind sitting here, although I'm very unpopular, engagement is down, views are down, people are frustrated. I don't mind sitting here saying, I am so incredibly bullish. I'm managing my risks. I'm trying to anticipate just volatility, especially even in the coming weeks, maybe more downside. We talk about this on the shorter term analysis, but I am so bullish. And all of these reasons are why. ETH reaches the historical buy zone that triggers a macro bottom. This 2-year MA indicator, moving average indicator, just triggered a buy signal for the first time since 2022. This is bullish. This doesn't even mention Fed data, monetary cycle data that I'm trying to just sprinkle into the charts and the video. So Ethereum is in this historically high opportunity zone while we're weeks away from quantitative tightening slowing down and then ultimately coming to an end. And so if that's the case, you look at an Ethereum chart, well, besides that moving average indicator, besides the bottoming out in terms of the RSI, look at the monthly RSI here. We are truly in this bottoming out zone for Ethereum. Could Ethereum bottom out and just lag for weeks or months? Yes, it could be very painful, but pay attention. Not just Ethereum, this is a good representation, but altcoin holders, pay attention to what happens here with Fed net liquidity. Because if this starts breaking out, then we're really going to start seeing, I think, altcoins make the move that everybody is waiting for. In terms of Ethereum, even on this chart, if we change this to a weekly chart to get a nice illustration, I've been talking a lot about the potential for this busted pattern. Busted patterns are one of my favorite charts, meaning we're getting a pattern, we get a breakout, everybody's like, that's it, it's over, bearish. We get the pullback and actually a busted pattern, and we're making the move to the upside. The same can happen to the upside, a fake out, throwback, and then it's bearish. But I'm looking for the potential for Ethereum to make this move, draw back to the triangle itself, and this would be such a solid, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but such a solid indicator for altcoins and even the altcoin bull market. If this played out, and I don't know if it will, let's track things, but if this played out, this could be the altcoin bull market indicator. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with what happens here. And that is all coming from what happens here. So I think it's so important to watch all of these moving parts, all of these factors. There's so many factors I haven't talked about. And I saw this post. Crypto market cap is now fully retested, 2021 highs. The majority of gains made since Trump's win are gone, along with leverage and retail. I think the next leg up will start in April once the quantitative tightening slowdown begins. Whether it does or not, nobody knows, but it's not a bad thesis. It's not a bad analysis to think that that is 100% in play, because we see historically what this does when we get that liquidity coming into play, what this does, not just for crypto, but for markets in general. So these are my thoughts today, everybody, as we're just kind of trading sideways. I wanted to try and bring in some very important data, and this is something that we need to continue focusing on and watching. So let's see what happens in the coming days and weeks as we kind of go through this process. But again, I think the best is yet to come for altcoins. It's just taking some patience, and with that comes an incredible amount of opportunity. That's just my thought. This is just my view on the space right now. I am very excited, obviously, but trying to really back it up with solid data. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. I appreciate you cruising through. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.